Hi, welcome to Edward Box Guitar Tuition. So we've got another classic album inspection for you today. November 7th, 1981, 40 years ago, Ozzy Osbourne released his sophomore solo album, Diary of a Madman. So for many people, myself included, this is the best Ozzy Osbourne album of the Randy Rhoads era, and it's his best solo album. So it was recorded Ridge Farm Studios. Basically the band were due to go on American tour, I think, and Sharon Osbourne, the record company, were like, look, get in the studio and get an album knocked out. So the Blizzard of Oz album had actually come out the previous September. So they're in a, like I say, in a gap between touring, but obviously this was recorded February, March, and took a while to come out. But this is the last album with Lee Kerslake and Bob Daisley as well. On the inside sleeve of the original record, you had a picture of Rudy Zaza and Tommy Aldridge, who were then the members in the band, and they were credited on the back of the sleeve, but it's Kerslake and Daisley. And they're still the definitive Osbourne rhythm section to me. Their feel and their groove and their style is what works best with Randy Rhoads. That's what the classic Ozzy stuff sounds like. I think it's appropriate that the track opens with a great Lee Kerslake drum fill on Over the Mountain. So this track, real firm fan favourite, 4 minutes and 31 seconds. So this has the rolling 16s of I Don't Know, but it's got this weird sort of dark gothic riff. It uses kind of a tritone and a semitone within it, in the interval from the root note, and it's just like really cool vocal from Ozzy in a high register, and then great middle 8, and then it goes into this mental solo that Randy Rhoads does. He does this really gothic melody, again using a tritone. He harmonises his sort of scalar like runs, really cool, and then it breaks down with those fantastic whammies, open string pull off thing he does at the end. Really great opening track and a firm classic. Then track 2 is probably the most well-known track on the album, which is Flying High Again. So this is kind of like the catchy rock track that would work on the Blizzard of Oz album. I mean, I really like it, but maybe not as much. Maybe there's not as much interest in it now. Got some cool kind of phasing and effects on the chorus, and it's like that lyric Ozzy. It's about Ozzy getting high and that's something to explore later on about how mad he was. He'd have those autobiographical songs. But great Randy Rhoads solo, and it's probably one of his most famous. Some really cool scalar runs with trills on top, and he does a really interesting two-handed tapping part that plays the same patterns but just moves to the same interval across the strings. It kind of gives it an odd sort of classical feel, but he's differing from the Van Halen style where he's kind of doubling up his trill and then tapping. So he's taking his own approach there. George Lynch would kind of copy this for his Tooth and Nail solo a bit, I feel. So really cool track. Then track 3 is like a deep cut. You Can't Kill Rock and Roll. So this is really epic. It's just under 7 minutes. It opens with like steel string acoustic, probably double tracked. It might have some clean in there. And Randy Rhoads is using like a B chord, but he's playing a suspended 4th note on the top. And this is quite a popular chord. Gets used in Coldplay, Yellow, and not in the same way Randy uses it, but it's really cool, and it gives it's got an upbeat Mixolydian melody line and chord progression, but the solo kind of goes really gothic and minor. That's something I'll return to, is the gothic sort of sound of this album. It's a cool track, like the fade out solo, as it's fading out. It's quite a long fade out, and they kind of keep the solo a little higher as the rest of the music's fading out. It's quite interesting. And Randy Rhoads, he's kind of breaking into feedback and being sort of quite gnarly. I think people forget, like, sometimes you'll put in those really gnarly sounds like pinch harmonics or odd harmonics or dive bombs and so on. It's got that on this track. And the final track on side 1, this was Osbourne Rhoads Daisley writing this as well as the previous track. This is Believer, so this is on the tribute album, quite a popular track live. Again, really starts off with just like the bass, boom, 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 really cool, and then Randy Rhoads kind of multi-tracks all these harmonics and eerie noises like scraping the strings at the top of past the top of the neck, and they're kind of reverbed and probably delayed, and it creates this sort of eerie cacophony, and then he comes in with this very gothic minor riff, which is really unique, and there's not really anything like it in metal, I don't think. And it's got a cool kind of, sort of rhythm change for the choruses into the solo. Solo's interesting, but more interesting at the end when the song fades out. It has the grinding riff, and then the cacophonous sound comes back in, and it's kind of buried underneath the mix, but it works really well. So that's side one. The album's 43 minutes long, so it's quite long for an album of this time. Only 8 tracks, so the tracks are all over 4 minutes. Well, most of them are over 5. So side 2 opens again. It's got a double track tom thing, mirroring side 1 with a tom intro, drum intro, and it's Little Dolls. I think this is a really good deep cut actually. Again, it's just got a stomping quarter note bass feel, and Randy does like a really kind of chunky, just power fifth riff, pretty simple. A good vocal melody from Ozzy and a really catchy chorus. And then he shows his Beatle influence in the middle, Ozzy, where he kind of does one part of vocal and has a kind of refrain after it, and they kind of converge, which I really like. Solos, not one of Randy's best. I think he probably wanted more time on it, but I do think it's listening to it today was like really refreshing. Then track number 6 is Tonight. I think this is probably the weakest track on the album. It's the ballad. But it is good. It's got an epic chorus, and the fade out solo is exceptional on this. The fade out solo might be the best on the album, or one of the best after Over the Mountain and Flying High Again. It's really good. It kind of comes in with a cool open string classical kind of thing, and then he's kind of playing pentatonics. He's been quite gnarly bits of feedback, pinch harmonics. It's using the effects, the reverb and that on the mix to kind of accentuate this. And as it fades out, he does this lovely, fast, smooth pentatonic stuff. He's really on it. So I think that's a cracking track. Then the next one is Sato. Again, this has a kind of intro that's got some steel string acoustic, I think. Maybe just some nylon. And then this is the most metal track. It's a 12/8 meter. 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 3, 3, 4, 3. Typical sort of metal groove. That's very popular with power metal. Very kind of minor kind of riff again. Getting that gothic sort of sound the album's got. Cool vocal from Ozzy. Quite a cool chorus bridge. Not so keen on the solo, but it builds up again at the end. That's one of the things on this album. The tracks end really well. They sort of have end sections that build and carry the song on, and this is no different. So then finally we arrive at the title track of the album, the last track on the album. This is the second longest track, 6 minutes and 15. So I'll lay my cards on the table. I think this is the best thing Ozzy ever did. I think it's even better than his stuff with Sabbath, this track. If you needed to pick a track by Ozzy Osbourne where you go, check this out, this is the one. And I love Symphony Universe and Megalomania and Spiral Architect and those amazing Sabbath epics, but this is just next level. I think Randy Rhoads achieved something remarkable and special with this, and I think you listen to metal composer guys like Michael Romeo or what Queen's done a track like Sweet Sister Mary, and I think you can hear where those kind of big ideas, grandiose ideas come from. Gacko Lewis, I think it's Lewis Clark, just checking again. Yeah, he did the string arrangements on this. He passed away recently. But it has orchestral arrangements, which is superb. So it opens up with a beautiful intro that I think is based on a classical guitar piece. And this will actually form, some of these chords will form part of the verse. And when I was younger, it's one of the sort of earlier things I learned. I still play it for enjoyment, it's fantastic. Then it goes in a great main riff. And then the verse breaks down into these chords. It's in 7/4 time. Works brilliant. Great groove from Kerslake and Daisley. Like I said, the drum sound and bass sound on the whole album is really good. It's got good production. And Randy's rhythm guitar on the album, I should have mentioned, kind of not as chainsaw as the first album. It's getting more refined. Then the chorus as such kind of goes into 3/4 time. I think it's 3/4. I mean, maybe people disagree. But anyway, it's groups of 3. It's fantastic. And then about 2.5 minutes in, the track breaks down to this haunting middle section, and Randy Rhoads plays, I think again he's got steel string acoustic, probably tracked with nylon, and he plays this beautiful little figure that he moves around. Then there's kind of keyboards underneath, and Ozzy does a lovely vocal. The string arrangement starts to build up, and then it just explodes into this epic riff. That's really, really huge, and then breaks down into the solo, which is really haunting, I'll use that word, gothic, slightly almost atonal, strange strange solo over the verse chords. And then the track has another verse, carries on it, and it just goes into this epic, spectacular end where there's a choir. Ozzy bringing in the superstar Sabbath influence from Sabotage, basically, I guess. Whether it's his idea, I don't know. But the band excel themselves, the whole band, the production and the string arrangement, everyone just goes up a notch. I think it remains one of the great achievements in metal. And it's Randy Rhoads, if you had to pick a sort of legacy track, I think this is it. Randy Rhoads was an early guitarist I got into. I must say now, the one thing two things I'm not as keen on with his playing is his kind of guitar sounds a little kind of buzzy for me. He doesn't have the strongest vibrato, I think, because of his background in classical guitar and the style of vibrato for that. He doesn't have the wide vibrato of Van Halen, Schenker, George Lynch later, Uli John Roth, but his competitors at the time, his main competitor was Eddie Van Halen, and then I would say Michael Schenker and Uli John Roth behind them. But in terms of record sales impact, this album sold 3 million in the States, the first album sold 5. So he's right up there. He's one of the most heard guitarists of all time, and what I mean by that is guys who've sold a lot of records, and I think people forget that, in that era, if you weren't selling records, you weren't getting heard. So he's kind of next level stuff, really. But this is a great record, 9 out of 10. It's interesting. It's more interesting than the Blizzard of Oz album. It kind of explores more, and it's just an interesting record. It's always reveals something new when you listen to it. So it's my favourite Ozzy album, my favourite of the Randy era. And there we go. So I hope you enjoyed that. Diary of a Madman, 40 years old today. When I first got this, it was only 5 years. No, it was like 4 years old when I first heard it. Christ. There we go. Cheers. Thanks for checking it out. Remember to share and subscribe. Thank you.